Okay, all right, we're back, people. Thank you for that brief moment. Shh, we are back. So, importance of religion, polytheistic. I got to read this again for my at home viewers. Two groups of gods, sun god worshipped as a source of all life, and the sun god is Re, which again, all these pharaohs are derived, are born of the sun god. And then just a little asterisk. If you guys are absent, all of these lectures, I should say all, I try, I think I miss one every now and then, are on Canvas. You should listen to them if you're not here so that you can keep up with what we're doing in class, okay? So, religion, and we're going to continue with religion with two of these important gods. A land god is Isis, and a river god is Osiris. And that river god is the river Nile. And it tells again why in that embalming feature where we looked at why it was so important that they be washed with the water from the river Nile, because this idea of the Nile River and rebirth. And the story of Isis is a story of resurrection. And from our first chapter, I hope you remember me telling you that every religion has a creation story, a destruction of the world story, and some kind of resurrection. And so the resurrection story for Egypt is, and you guys don't write anything on this one because there's not anything, it's just a story. Osiris and Isis were husband and wife. And Osiris had a brother, Set, who coveted or who lusted after his wife, Isis. And so his brother thought, if I cut up my brother into 14 pieces and throw him in the river, then I can have his wife. And so Set, his brother, cuts up Osiris into 14 pieces, throws him in the river. Isis goes into the river, finds all those 14 pieces, and then puts her husband back together again. Hence why the Nile River is so important in that mummification process, that we wash the body with the water from the Nile as this symbol of rebirth or resurrection. Nothing on your test about that. I just like talking about getting a body chopped up in 14 pieces and putting it back together. But these are two of the more important parts of Egyptian religion. And if you were really, really listening and paid a close attention when we were going through that embalming, you saw that the amulets was Isis. One of those was named Isis. And the picture that they painted for one of the cover boards was Osiris. That's why these two gods are really, really important. Those of you that like these types of things, mythology, Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, any of that stuff, we don't have anything that you can take in this building. But when you get to college, you can take whole entire semesters of Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology. They're very popular courses because people like to take those, obviously. But it is a significant part of their religion, and especially these two important gods. Our next look is at society, daily life. This class structure is a little bit different than the class structures that we've looked at with our other groups. They tended to be very simplistic, just 3 groups. Egypt is more defined, and mostly because they're separating out those top 3 groups. That's the group that's really separated out. The other places that we looked at, those first 3, pharaohs, priests, and nobles, they've all been one class. In Egypt, they really designate those out, that the pharaoh is at the very top. Priests and priestesses, and again, still remembering that women have access to being part of the holders of the sacred text. Nobles, and then we go to the big clump of merchants, scribes, artisans, and then peasant farmers, and then slaves. The other thing that is uniquely different in Egypt and will be different from any place else that we study, especially this whole first semester, is the rights that women have in Egypt. They have a lot of different rights that they will not have in any other places, with the most important one being property. Women have a right to property. Probably not until we get into March or April will we study any place that allows women to hold property, mostly because women can't sign contracts and women don't have access to money. But in Egypt, in this time period, women have lots of rights. They could keep property, and most importantly, they could be merchants, which means that they could earn a living and make their own money. There will not be a single solitary place that we study until we get into March, April, that allow women to do any of those things. All right, questions about any of that? And then our last bit is learning and accomplishments. And again, these learning and accomplishments would be achievements on your mind map. And the first one is their writing system. So what was their writing system? Because remember, that is, again, one of our classifications of a civilization. And if you don't know that hieroglyphics is a writing system, I would encourage you to write that beside the word hieroglyphics if you don't already know that. Hieroglyphics is a pictograph. So instead of letters, they have pictures. Gentlemen at the back, if you guys want to continue to sit back there, you need to stop talking, please. So hieroglyphics are pictures of symbols of things that represent words. Modern day pictographs would be like Chinese and Japanese, that each one of those symbols is a word, not a letter, which means you have to learn a lot of those to create sentences. Next one is papyrus. Papyrus is writing. So it's like our Mesopotamian groups, they wrote on clay tablets. Egyptians are going to write on papyrus. And what would be something similar to give you an idea? It would be like writing on corn husks. It's not necessarily the greatest thing, but it lasts. You can write on it, and it actually kind of would be like corn husks that are like wet, so that it's pliable. Oh, hello. Oh, it's Dr. Jenkins. This is never good. Hello? Hey. I do. Would you like him to come down? Yep. All right. James, that was for you, hon. All right. So our papyrus writing paper, can you please take the pass with you? That was what they used to write on. Obviously, we spent a lot of time talking about pyramids, and building those pyramids is certainly an accomplishment. There are very few things that humans have built that have lasted as long as the pyramids. It is a testament to their skill, their craftsmanship, and their understanding of math and engineering. I cannot think if anybody wants to throw out a building that we have currently that stands that are older than pyramids. Nope. Great Wall goes into like around 800 BCE. We're talking 2500 BCE. I don't know of any. I don't know of any. I'm not my strong suit is not ancient civilization, so I always throw that out. Most people say the Great Wall. We'll see in next chapter when that's built. That is built much later. So that the fact that these Egyptians were able to build these buildings are a testament to their ability. We looked at embalming yesterday, or whatever day, Tuesday. One of my students, fourth hour, asked about the whole hook up the brain, like, can you really do that? Yes. If anyone ever heard of a lobotomy before? That word, a lobotomy is a medical procedure that used to be done quite often to people that were put into homes for mental patients or the criminally insane. And it was a very simple procedure. Your frontal lobe, and I'm not by any means a scientist or know lots about this, but I do know your frontal lobe is where your emotions are. That's what all your emotions are done. What makes you happy, what makes you sad. And so a way to treat mental patients was to take a probe and stick the metal probe up your nose and scramble the front part of your brains. And then you would just be a flat line. You would really have no emotions, no highs, no lows. You would just be static. Governments and states use that a lot to control different types of people who certainly had mental illnesses. But it's not if you look at a skull you can see the opening of the back part of the nose goes right into the back part of the brain. So it's not that difficult to do. Please don't try it. Don't try any of that to do on yourself or anyone else. Calendar based on 365 days. Again, we get that from the Nile River flooding regularly. The math and engineering and geometry tie back up into those pyramids. We didn't really speak a lot about jewelry or gold, but this is, again, where they gained much of their wealth, that they created great works of art and jewelry. Everybody that's ever worn one of those what is this part of your arm called? Bicep bracelets that wrap around your arm that's got a snake on it, that's Egyptian. That's a truly connection with Egypt and the types of things that they built. And then their art and literature, which we didn't spend a lot of time looking at just for the sake of time. But their learning and accomplishments are lengthy. They have had a lasting impact on the history of the world, the fashion world, the eyeballs, the people with their crazy arms, a song, Walk Like an Egyptian. If you don't know it, it's an awesome song. You should take a listen to it. Cats, pyramids, dressing, the idea that the high empire waist dresses come from this time period. So they were highly influential in the time period, and they continue to be influential as we move forward in history. All right, so you've got two things on your plate at this point. One, you need to finish up that Three Kingdoms. Remember the writing assignment. Some of you, I don't know if you just turned it in so that you could turn it in, but some of you did not do that writing assignment that have already turned it in. So check and make sure. Before you do anything else, from this point forward, and using all these external tools like Kami and that I've linked the Google Doc, you guys cannot open those things in other places. So once you put it in your Google Docs, don't go back to Google Docs. You have to always go back through Canvas, which is why I think a couple of you had to send it to me because you didn't have a submit button. So make sure that you're always opening that through Canvas. Your writing assignment, first paragraph, glorious Pharaoh, you're awesome. Here's all the great, wonderful things that you have done in your ruling of the kingdom. Second paragraph, but if we don't fix these things, and here's how we fix it, we're going to collapse. Does that make sense? 2 paragraphs, greatness of this empire. Second paragraph, the empire is going to collapse. We don't want it to happen. Here's how you fix it. All right. And then I'm going to go around and pass out our last piece of paper for our mind maps. That's linked today in case you need to look back at that mind map. All right. Questions, anyone? Yes.
Do we have to do a mind map for each kingdom?
No, it's all of Egypt. So just one Egypt, and you'll just put all the information as one. If you want to put separate things on your mind map about the kingdoms, you certainly can. Because in essence, this is a cheat sheet for you for the test. So those of you that are filling your mind maps out with great depth, you're going to be really well off when it comes to test time. Those of you writing like 2 words, 2 words. I hope